June 12th public meeting of the Virginia Planning Commission to order. My name is Dee Oliver, and I am the acting chairman of the commission today. Before we get started, I've asked Commissioner Dave Redmond to lead us. No, sorry, I haven't. It was Commissioner.
Roll with punches?
Well, you know what? You might have done it, but no. Commissioner Wall is going to say the prayer for us today, and Commissioner Hornsley is going to lead us in the pledge.
Okay, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today thanking you for our guidance and wisdom. As we begin this hearing today, guide our hearts and our minds in a spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Help us to remember our responsibility to serve our community with great insight, guided by your understanding, wisdom, and respect for all. As we make decisions today, help us to promote the common good as we work together for the betterment of our great city. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jack and Don. I've asked Commissioner Weiner to please introduce our members.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. On the far end, we have Kay Wilson. Kay is our city attorney. Next to Kay is Jack Wall. Jack is a civil engineer, and he represents the Rose Hall District. Next is Dr. Karen Beersley-Kwanzi, and she is a professor of literature and cultural studies, and she represents the Princess Anne District. Next, we have Don Horsley. Don is a farmer, and he is at large. Next is Ron Ripley. Ron is in real estate management and development, and he is also at large. Next is Jan Rosinski. She's our secretary of the Planning Commission. She is in property management, and she represents the Centerville District. The one seat open is Bob Thornton. Bob's our chairman of the Planning Commission. He is in commercial real estate, and he represents the Lynn Haven District. Next is Dee Oliver. Dee is our vice chair of the Planning Commission, playing chairman today. And she is a funeral director, and she is at large. Next to Dee is Jeff Hodson. Jeff is our vice chair today. He is in real estate management, and he represents the Beach District. Next is Mike Inman. Mike's an attorney, and he is at large. My name is David Weiner. I'm in commercial sales, and I represent the Kempsville District. Next to me is Dave Redmond. Dave is in commercial real estate. He represents the Bayside District. And then we have Barry Frankenfield, who is the director of planning.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce the staff. This is very challenging for me, so let's see if I can get through it. Right next to me, I have Cole Fisher and Carol Dozier. Pam Sandloop is behind them. On the planning bench, we have Kevin Kemp, who's the zoning administrator, Ashby Moss, Carolyn Smith, the planning administrator, Jimmy McNamara. In the back row, we have Jonathan Sanders and Marshall Coleman. And the row behind that, we have Lane Winstead, Nicole Garrido, Emily Bazemo, and Delina Cartwright. And in the way back row, we have Caitlin Alcott. So thank you all for being here.
Great. Thank you. The first order of business is the explanation of the rules we use to run the meetings, and Jan's going to do that for us. She's our secretary. Commissioner Rosinski, please.
Thank you, Chairman, Vice Chairman Oliver. The Virginia Beach Planning Commission takes pride in being fair and courteous to all parties in attendance. It is important that all involved understand how the commission normally conducts its meetings. It's equally important that everyone treat each other and members of the commission with respect and civility. The commission requests that if you have a cell phone to please silence it or turn it off at this time. This is an abbreviated explanation of the rules. A complete set of the rules is located in the front of the Planning Commission agenda. Following is the order of business for this public hearing. Withdrawals and deferrals. The chairman will ask if there is a request for a withdrawal or a deferral on any item on the agenda. Consideration of these items is made first. Consent agenda. The second order of business is the consideration of the consent agenda, which are those items which the Planning Commission believes are unopposed and have favorable staff recommendation. Regular agenda. We will then proceed with all of the remaining items on the agenda. Please note that action taken here today by the Commission are in the form of a recommendation to the Virginia Beach City Council. The final decision for approval or disapproval of any item is made by City Council. The commission thanks you for your attendance. We hope that your experience here today leaves you feeling that you have been heard and treated fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. The next order of business is to address those items to be deferred or withdrawn. Do we have any? I didn't think so. So, since we don't have any today, the next order of business is going to address those that have been placed on the consent agenda, and the Commissioner Hodson is going to address those for us now.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. This afternoon, we have 6 items on the consent agenda. The first matter is agenda item number 1. This is an application of J&B Design, Inc., an application for a conditional use permit being a tattoo parlor on property located at 3157 Virginia Beach Boulevard in the Beach District. Is there a representative here for this application? Would you please come forward and state your name for the record?
Brett Spickard?
Have you seen the conditions, and are they acceptable?
Yes.
They are. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You may be seated. Is there any opposition to this matter being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, the chairman has asked that Commissioner Ron Ripley please read this into record.
Thank you, Jeff. This is a conditional use permit for a tattoo parlor. It's on like you said, a property off of Virginia Beach Boulevard, 3157. It's actually located in the Francis Land House Historic and Cultural Overlay District. It's part of a small strip shopping center, and it's a 3,000 square foot unit in the shopping center. And the staff reviewed it. They put some conditions regarding sign, lettering, et cetera, and the usuals for this type of conditional use permit. They recommended approval. We are not aware of anybody that's opposing it, and the Planning Commission felt that it ought to go on consent. So that's why it's there.
Thank you, Mr. Ripley. The next item is number 2, and this is an application of the Lash CEO LLC, an application for a conditional use permit for a tattoo parlor on property located at 1060 Lynn Haven Parkway. This is in the Rose Hall District. Is there a representative here for this application? Would you please come forward? Good afternoon. If you come to the microphone, state your name for the record, please.
Rakina Velti.
Have you seen the conditions, and are they acceptable?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Is there any opposition to this matter being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, the chairman has asked Mr. Wall to please read this.
Thank you. This is a conditional use permit for a tattoo parlor. The applicant currently operates a beauty salon in the unit within it, the existing shopping center along Lynn Haven Parkway. A conditional use permit for a tattoo parlor is requested in order to offer permanent cosmetic makeup services known as microblading to clients. The typical hours of operation are from 9:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The signage, similar to other signs in the shopping center, a box sign is proposed above the main entrance. They'll have a white background with black letters and a gold logo. The conditions are acceptable to the applicant. There's no known opposition, and staff recommends approval. Therefore, we place this item on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. The next matter is agenda item number 3. This is an application of Nina and William Gilbert, an application for a conditional use permit for a residential kennel on property located at 5716 Blackwater, and this is in the Princess Anne District. Is there a representative here for this application? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please state your name.
William Gilbert.
Have you seen the conditions, and are they acceptable?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Is there any opposition to this matter being placed on the consent agenda? The chairman has asked that Commissioner Don Horsley please read this item.
Thank you, Mr. Hodgson. First, I need to reveal that I am the farmer that rents the property that surrounds this property, which has nothing in the world to do with this dog kennel. I just needed to let that be known. The applicant owns 10 hunting dogs, and upon some recent information found by them that they, with the number of dogs they had, they needed to file for a use permit for a kennel license. Their desire is to have up to 15 dogs, 12 of them probably for hunting and 3 companion dogs. They've got the kennel space, and there's a picture of one of them on the screen. They've got 3 kennels, 1 for the companion animals and 2 for the hunting dogs. They've supplied us with a packet of letters of support from the surrounding neighbors in the area. This is in ag zoning. They're surrounded by several hundred acres of farmland and woodsland and swampland, so there's no issue there. So with the condition that they can have no more than 15 total dogs on the property at any one time, that's adult dogs, and that they maintain the cleanup of the waste, collect waste and all, and dispose of in proper manner. The staff, so that this was totally appropriate for this area, and there was no opposition, so we placed it on the consent agenda today.
Thank you, Mr. Horsley. The next matter is agenda item number 4. This is an application for Enoch Baptist Church for a modification of conditions for a group home on property located at 5677 Herbert Moore Road in the Kempsville District. Is there a representative here? Good afternoon.
Tambra Bowden.
And have you seen the conditions and are they acceptable?
Yes, sir, I have.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any opposition to this matter being placed on the consent agenda? The chairman has asked that Commissioner David Weiner please read this item into record.
Thank you, Mr. Hodson. This is a modification of conditions for a group home. In April 1979, under a different applicant, a conditional use permit for a group home was granted on this property to provide housing and resources to individuals with intellectual disabilities. The group home was in operation until 2017. As the focus of the church's outreach efforts has changed, a modification to the conditional use permit is now requested in order to establish a group home that will provide housing for individuals who are homeless or near homeless. The intent of the home is to provide housing and resources for up to 13 individuals who desire to become viable renters and possible homeowners in the future. According to the applicant, the occupants will pay a nominal fee to stay in the home for up to 2 years. This fee will be all-inclusive and will cover residents' stay in the facility, food, and supplies. The occupants will also undergo a background check prior to becoming residents in the home. Volunteers from the church and from within the community will manage the day-to-day operations of the group home, which will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Staff has recommended this for approval, and we put it on a consent agenda.
Thank you, David. Next matter is agenda item number D1. This is an application of John and Karen Waller, an application for conditional rezoning from AG1 and AG2 agricultural to conditional R10 residential on property located at 2313 Treesong Trail, east and north sides of Treesong Trail in the Princess Anne District. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Commissioner Hodgson, Chairperson Oliver. For the record, Eddie Burdon, Virginia Beach attorney representing the applicant, and Mr. Waller is here with us this afternoon. We appreciate being on the consent agenda. I would mention that we are going to add a proffer between now and City Council requiring a mandatory membership HOA that will be responsible for maintaining the stormwater management BMP that will be based on the easement on Lot 10. Appreciate Mr. McNamara's efforts with this and be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Madonna.
Thank you.
Any opposition to this matter being on the consent agenda? The chairman has asked Dr. Karen Kwasny to please read this record.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hodgson. This is a request for conditional rezoning in the Princess Anne District from Ag 1, Ag 2 to conditional R10 residential in order to create a total of 10 parcels for single-family development. The existing single-family development is proposed to remain on a 7.5-acre parcel. The remaining 3 acres will be divided into 9 lots, resulting in a density lower than what is provided in surrounding subdivision areas. The western side of Treesong Trail has existing lots that have been developed with single-family homes of R15 residential with at least 15,000 square feet on each lot. While this proposal is for R10, with the exception of Lot 1, all lots along Treesong Trail will be at least 15,000 square feet in size. Proposed Lot 2, which fronts on Painter's Lane, will have 11,520 square feet. Part of this request is that the applicant is dedicating 10 feet of right-of-way along Treesong Trail, which will increase the existing right-of-way width to 50 feet. Some interesting notes in relation to this one is that residential developments, that the staff finds this in keeping with the comprehensive plan for the suburban area. As well, the applicant has submitted a preliminary drainage study to Development Services. Development Services has indicated that it has the potential to successfully comply with the stormwater requirements for the site. Staff's opinion is that this regards this compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. They recommend approval. Planning Commission places it on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Karen. The next item and the last one on the consent is D3. This is an application of St. Luke Catholic Church, an application for a modification of conditions, a conditional use permit for a church approved by City Council in 1989 and modified in 1990, again in 2010, and then again in 2014 on property located at 2304 Salem Road in the Princess Anne District. Is there a representative here? Hello. Good afternoon. Please state your name.
Margaret Luby, attorney for St. Luke's.
And I assume you've seen the conditions and
Yes.
accept. All right. Thank you very much. Any opposition to this matter being on the consent agenda? The chairman has asked that Commissioner Kwasny please read this into the record.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hodson. This is a request for a modification of proffers on a conditional use permit. An 8.62 acre site is currently zoned R5 residential and consists of a church, 2 mobile units, and a single-family dwelling. The original conditional use permit for St. Luke Catholic Church was approved by City Council in 1989, modified in 1990. In 2010, the church was granted an approval by City Council to locate temporary mobile units behind the sanctuary for a period of 5 years. In 2014, council approved a modification that permitted the mobile units to remain on the site for an additional 5 years. We're nearing the end of that term. The church is now requesting to expand the existing church building from approximately 11,250 to 18,005 square feet. The expansion requires a modification to the conditional use permit and includes a tower and entrance nave on the west side of the building and a 6,812 square foot addition to the north side of the building. The northern addition includes space for administrative offices, restroom, a kitchen, classrooms, and gathering space. These proposed expansions eliminate the need for the mobile units, which is a benefit to the area. Therefore, the structures will be removed from the property. The plan also depicts an extension of the parking lot by an additional 35 additional spaces. The number of parking spaces proposed meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. In staff's opinion, the proposed building expansion of St. Luke Church will complement the architectural design and character of the existing buildings, will provide sufficient parking, and be an amenity to the area. Staff recommends approval. Planning Commission places it on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Kwasny. Ms. Oliver, that was the last item on the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve agenda items number 1, 2, 3, 4, D1, and D3.
Great, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion made by Vice Chairman Hodson and seconded by Commissioner Rusinski. We are now ready. Are we ready to vote?
Vote is open.
All right, vote is open.
By a recorded vote of 10-0, items number 1, 2, 3, 4, D1, and D3 have been approved by consent.
Thank you. Before you all depart, I'd just like to thank all the applicants for coming down and who had a matter placed on the consent agenda. We appreciate it. And that will be placed on the council on the next date. They'll show them on the website, so, or notify you. So thank you. The next order of business will address the remaining matters on our agenda. So would the Clerk of Commission call the first item up?
The first item to be heard today will be item number 5, the City of Virginia Beach, an application for special exception for alternative compliance, build to requirement in Oceanfront Resort District Form-Based Code on property located south of 19th Street and east of North Burbank Road, extending south to 17th Street and east to just beyond Parks Avenue. We have one speaker in opposition on this matter.
Ash, yeah.
Actually, I think the speaker is in support, but they have comments.
Okay. Well, you want to just come up and
Ashby, come.
go ahead and come on up and then read it and explain it.
Hello, Ashby Moss with the City of Virginia Beach SGA office. This application is for a special exception for alternative compliance to develop a sports center building complex and surrounding surface parking lots. The proposed site layout does not meet the Oceanfront Resort District Form-Based Code's Build To requirement for a civic building type on a gateway frontage. The prescribed form requires a building to be placed between 5 and 35 feet from the right-of-way, which is what the Build To zone is, along at least 50% of the site's street frontage. Since the proposed building footprint is entirely outside of the Build To zone, a special exception for alternative compliance is needed. Sports Center will attract multiple sports tourism events that the city has not been able to attract before. It has two primary facilities to house a variety of sports, including basketball, volleyball, wrestling, gymnastics, cheer, field hockey, and indoor track. The indoor track is designed to current NCAA indoor track and field standards and includes over 4,400 spectator seats. And the courts facility includes areas for spectator seating, along with the mezzanine that includes seating and camping areas for teams. The complex also has a kitchen and dining areas, training room, team meeting rooms, areas for coaches and recruiters, building administration, and other support areas. So with the special exception for alternative compliance, the form-based code outlines different standards to show that that the application advances the stated goals and objectives of the Resort Area Strategic Action Plan. And this item has been reviewed and satisfies those standards. So staff is recommending approval.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Moss or comments?
I'll do comments after we hear.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll call Tom Musumisi. Please state your name for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Muzamechi. I live at 1008 Coastaway Drive for the last 22 years, and I am the chairperson of the Seabridge Square Civic Association. Seabridge Square is a small neighborhood directly across 17th Street from the proposed building. We just have a couple of concerns. Overall, we support the field house, but we're really concerned that the back side of the building is coming right up to 17th Street. I mean, our best end case is if the building would rotate and the back side of the building with the loading docks face Bird Neck Road. Given that's probably not going to be a great possibility, we want to make sure that there is a whole lot of landscaping that kind of screens us. We don't want to come in and out of our neighborhood and look at a loading dock every day. I know that the report talks about generous landscaping. I would say overly generous landscaping would really be what we're looking for. We have a couple of other concerns, too. The building looks extremely blank. I know that when the city was considering the arena, I mean, it was a really detailed rendering of what that building was going to look like. And when you look in the staff report, the backside of that building is just blank. So, I would like to see some real architectural renderings, something to make that building look attractive. I think the other issue that we have is with stormwater drainage. There's going to be a whole lot more impervious surfaces, and I'm not an expert on this, but it seems to me that there should be a BMP over there somewhere to kind of help with the stormwater runoff. So those are really our concerns. We'd like to see a much more detailed rendering of the building. We want to make sure that 17th Street is protected. I think everybody in the city has high hopes for the redevelopment of 17th Street, and I think there's going to be some projects coming forward that can help with that. So between that and the stormwater runoff, those are the issues that we're really concerned about, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Ms. Moss?
I spoke with, already forgot his name. sorry, prior to this, and he shared his concerns about the appearance of the building, which I believe you also expressed earlier, of the appearance of the building from 17th Street. So we are not at the stage yet where we have that detail on the building elevation from that side, but we will certainly pay close attention to that. There are also some requirements in the form-based code that require the mechanical equipment to be completely screened from view from the right-of-way. And also, it prohibits a blank wall to continue horizontally or vertically for more than 30 feet. So it would need to have a change in building materials or a change in building plane. So at a minimum, we will be meeting those requirements. Plus, I think there are some exterior building materials they can put, especially on the upper part of the building, that would be visible from above the landscape screen. The BMP, we did not talk about that one, but stormwater will meet regulations, so that they are adding a new BMP in addition to the stormwater pond that's already there. So that will all be addressed with the site plan review. And I think that was it.
Thank you. Do you have, oh, I'm sorry, Ashby?
Ashby, I'm glad to hear that you're treating the elevations with some relief, breakup elevation relief. I was going to suggest that we very minimally look at the design criteria for the big boxes that were developed. And you probably can't meet everything that's in there, but there is that was a big concern with the big boxes, and making sure that there was architectural relief designed into it. And so hopefully that if we're asking the public to do it, I think the city ought to look at that as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Actually, what, can you tell me just what spurred to put this in this location?
No.
Okay.
I think, well, it's kind of a symbiotic use with the convention center. And it is going to accommodate a lot of the sporting events that previously have been held in the convention center. So, and, this has the space to accommodate it. There's the hotel infrastructure already in place to accommodate guests that come for overnight stays. So it really does work hand in hand with the convention center, which is right across the street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No?
Close it.
Okay. Thank you. We'll close the session now for discussion among the commissioners. Yes.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the concern that we talked about this morning in the informal was the back of this building. I met with some of the stakeholders that own a significant amount of property on 17th Street, and their concern was how to make the back of this building not look like the back of this building. And Rick's not in here, so I don't think he can tell me I'm wrong, which may be, but I believe 17th Street is a much more heavily traveled gateway than 19th Street. Am I right in that, Barry, I believe?
Rick's here.
Rick's here?
Yeah, there he is.
Isn't 17th Street much more significantly traveled than 19th Street? Yes. Okay. Yet, thank you. You're hiding.
A man of few words.
But this is the back of the building, and 17th Street is kind of going through a much-needed facelift in the last couple of years, and hopefully it's going to continue back towards this new facility. And it would be an absolute shame to just have a giant metal wall along the boulevard. So I would really like to see, like Ron mentioned, some elevation, something showing us, or just giving us some satisfaction that this is going to not look like what I'm seeing right here. So that's my biggest concern, and like I said, I met with some of the property owners that have a considerable amount of property there, and that was their concern, because they want to redevelop their parcel, and they don't want it to just be looking at the back of that building. So.
Jan?
I also had that same concern and thinking that maybe this is an opportunity for a local artist to do some kind of rendering that could give some real character and real charm to that building like they've done, in other locations. I know there's a couple hotels down at the beach that have those big murals and stuff on it. So, I mean, that might be something else that,
Well, this is leading into the Vibe District, which is what
Could
we're
be-
kind of calling our arts and crafts
Right.
district, where we're doing a lot of murals. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad idea at all. That's maybe something neat to look
so
at.
that might be a way to also make it look more than what it is.
I like that idea.
Yeah, and I think that, as 31st Street is a gateway into the city, so is 17. It's Route 58, and so as we start to develop it, and as we've been developing it, it's real important that this building has that presence on the south side of it as it does on the north side of it, without a doubt. So,
There's no other,
is there no other, yes, Jack?
We talked about aesthetics of the structure, but, in terms of aesthetics of the whole site, I think it'd be nice if for the record, if the city, maybe the Public Works Department, consider the corner of 19th and Bird Neck. We have parking, all the way up against Bird Neck, or it's shown in the site layout to be all the way up against the corner of Bird Neck, and at the corner of 19th Street. But some kind of an aesthetic feature, even to the loss of parking spaces, I think would be a benefit or a betterment to the development. So, possibly a water feature, maybe not something that's supporting the stormwater management, but maybe something that could support the stormwater management, something that could support, maybe the latest stormwater management regulations that could potentially apply to the site.
Yeah, I like that. I like that too.
Would be great. Anything else? No? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 5.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. A motion made by Commissioner Hodson, seconded by Commissioner Wiener. Call for the question.
By a recorded vote of 10 to 0, item number 5, City of Virginia Beach, has been approved.
Great, oh, yeah.
Great. Go ahead, call the next one, please.
Next item for today will be item D2, Halley Properties LLC, an application for a conditional use permit, automotive repair garage, on property located at 620 First Colonial Road in the Beach District. We have 3 registered speakers for this item, 2 in support and 1 in opposition.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
I have to abstain from this application. The reason being, I have a piece of property under contract as the broker with this applicant in another location. So I can't vote on this, and as a result, I'll take my leave and wish you all well.
Great, thank you.
Have a nice day.
Don't snicker at me, it is what it is.
All right, and we'll call it.
Okay, who's this?
Would the applicants please come forward?
Right.
I'm not even sure you're in this.
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
Vice Chairman, members of the commission and staff. My name is Grady Palmer. I represent the applicant in this matter. This is a conditional use permit for an automobile repair garage. It is a discount tire location on First Colonial Road. You may recall that this application was on your agenda, I believe back in December or January, and it was continued. We had originally shown 2 access points, one to our north on Bankers Lane, and another shared entrance with our neighbor to the south. The project was continued at that time for redesign to eliminate the access on Bankers Lane. So the only entrance currently that is proposed would be to the south in the shared entrance that directly accesses First Colonial. This property is a little under an acre in size. The family that has owned it is here with me today. It is, as you know, the Virginian Steakhouse. The family will be our landlord. They will lease the property to us. The Virginian Steakhouse will be demolished, and the Discount Tire location would be constructed if this is approved. We understand that it is in the Hilltop SGA. We have designed the building and laid out the site accordingly, and staff recommends approval. We also ask for your recommendation of approval as well, and I'll stand by for any questions that you've got. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Harry Christodoulis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for all your time. This is my father, George. He opened the Virginia Steakhouse when he was 33 years old,
Welcome.
and now he's 78. He's ready to retire. We were approached by Discount. We researched them. They're a powerful company, and we just wanted to thank everybody and introduce ourselves for all the time that everybody has put into this, and just looking forward to getting him retired. He's tired. He went in there young, and now he's old, so he's done.
We're gonna miss those French fries.
Well, you can come see me 8 miles up the street. We just wanted to thank everybody for all the work that they put into everything.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
William Jennings. Please state your name for the record.
My name is William Jennings. My name is William Jennings, and I am an employee of the Dairy Ramsey's. The opposition they have is to the location of the tire facility, not to the owners of the Virginian Steakhouse, whom my employers, the Dairy Ramsey's, have known for years. Mr. and Ms. Ramsey are here today. As noted in the Mr. Ramsey's statement that you have, the entire property from Donna Lane to Laskin, owned by the Dairy Ramsey's, are being marketed to be consistent with the Hilltop Strategic Growth Area Plan. A discount tire store is inconsistent with the city's future strategic growth plan, and this type of facility will set back the heart of the Hilltop Strategic Growth Area for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Palmer? I mean, Mr. Jennings?
Yes, I got one. Why do you think this project is going to sit back for decades?
Because the area completely surrounded is going to be developed into a 3 to 5 story, consistent with the SGA. Our folks have been meeting with the SGA, Hilltop Strategic Growth Area folks, and that's where it's going to be marketed. And this type of facility, with the noise and the bays and the traffic on that corner of the entire property, in other words, from Laskin all the way down to Donna, their properties surround that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you, can you pull the site plan up? Do the Ramseys?
No, you,
I'm sorry. That one, just, there's a pointer right there. I was just curious as to
okay.
what property does the family own around?
Okay, let's see. They own this parking lot, which used to be the old Kentucky Fried Chicken, if you're young enough to know that. All of this, which they have leased to Rite Aid. And as we know, we've been working with, in discussions with the gas station, Rite Aid. Of course, the bank has a land lease with us as well. They own Bankers Lane. They own this property here, which is down to Donna, and they own this property here. So it surrounds the entire properties.
And the property behind it also?
This one right here, property here?
Right there.
Yeah, that's the bank.
Okay.
And that's the lease that we have with the bank right now. And the bank is willing to work with us. So is Rite Aid, because they're going to go out next year. We already have a pharmacy here that does quite well. We have another Rite Aid across the street. We have a CVS, and over here at Kroger, you also have another pharmacy. So it's kind of, so that's why Rite Aid is not doing so well.
Ron?
So what do you feel would be appropriate? I mean, this is the people that own this property, and they have a right.
I like the Virginia.
Hold on. They have a right to develop the property.
Yes, sir.
And they have rights to property.
Absolutely.
So, what is in your vision that this should be?
Something that would be consistent with the plan. That if you look at the artist renderings and everything of the strategic growth area. Something along those lines would be helpful to this unique time that we can develop this whole piece of property. I think you're not going to see this happen again for a long time. So, restaurant, any type of things along that line, it's up to them. But something more consistent than a tire store on that side.
Okay, thanks.
I think one quick question to add to that. I think that the SGA folks have said that it is kind of inconsistent, but they were trying to make accommodations. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jennings, I have a question for you. Is there a reason why the two families did not get together to acquire that piece of property?
Well, we would like to work with them. Unfortunately, there was some miscommunication we use the same company that's a real estate broker, CBRE, and there were some miscommunications.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you for your consideration. Again, we love these folks.
Right.
We've been friends forever, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there Mr. Palmer, you want to come up for a rebuttal?
I thought she had.
Oh, I'm sorry, did we have any?
The last speaker?
Was that the last speaker? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just so we're clear, the property was parceled out and sold by the family to the current owners. And so, it's been operated by that family for 40 years, but it was originally owned by the entire family, and this parcel was sold.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Palmer? No? Well, on that, I guess we will close this and open it for discussions among the commissioners. Anybody have any?
I have a question.
Yes.
So what other kind of things, based on the SGA, and maybe Ashby can answer this, should go there? I mean, if they're talking about this not being consistent with what the SGA was showing, I apologize that I can't remember what's on the SGA. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Right across the street, don't we have a rim store? I think.
It's R&R Tires.
R&R, I mean, so we have
Tire store.
some, yeah. And we also just put a Take 5 oil down through there. So we are moving more and more of these type things into that area.
Yeah, it's a shame. Yes, Ron?
This item, I think we were going to place on consent. I think the commission seemed to be pretty accepting of it that when we were in the informal meeting, and I think staff recommended approval for it. It looks like they've worked pretty good with the staff as far as moving the building back on the back and landscaping it like they've landscaped it. It's a very, tire stores are something that, people just don't drop in, unless you need a tire. And it's not like it generates a lot of traffic. I think that's why Rick says he's not all concerned about it, because it's a pretty low-level use. And we run into this all the time in our strategic growth areas where maybe it doesn't quite fit the box, but They've worked with the elevations to try to make it look like it fits in, and it's an interim use, and later, perhaps in the long term, things change. And I really hope to see the rest of the property come in here that's being talked about to be developed or redeveloped. It would be really great. But right now, this man's ready to move, and
Right.
and he has a right, and I think unless there's a lot of change on the planning commission, the commissioners, I mean, I'd like to make a motion when you like
Okay.
for approval.
Okay, yes?
I'd like to second the motion too, and this other development that has been possibly talked about here, I think that's a long ways down the road. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, and I think then if the present owner wanted to make a shift, I think they could if that would be more amenable to them at the time, but I can't see holding these people back right now either. I support the motion.
Great. Well, hopefully, in the future, we'll be able to move it all together. But, so we've got a motion
It's a motion to approve.
to approve from Commissioner Ripley and a second by Dr.
Dr. Horsley, I
Dr.
appreciate
Hornsley.
the elevation
Farmer,
tonight.
Commissioner Hornsley. All right. Great. All right, I believe that was our last item. No? Sorry. I'm fast today.
By a recorded vote of 9-0 with one abstention, item D2 has been approved.
All right, there is any other further business? None? So on behalf of our fellow commissioners, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today and thank the planning director and his staff for their excellent work. And hope everybody has the rest of a good week. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Yes.